Malaysia was once the richest economies in Southeast and East Asia. It had a gross domestic product per capita nearly as much as Japan, Singapore, and Hong Kong. They were ahead of many future economic powerhouses like Taiwan and South Korea. Unfortunately, Malaysia over the decades had failed to ensure its economic success. The country would fall into the middle-income trap, a stage where economic growth stalls before reaching high-income status. To understand why this has happened, let's first talk about the history of Malaysia's economic rise. In the early years following independence, Malaysia's economy was largely dependent on the export of primary commodities such as tin, rubber, and palm oil. These sectors had been the backbone of the colonial economy, and while they generated substantial revenue, they left Malaysia vulnerable to global commodity price fluctuations. Moreover, the country's heavy reliance on agriculture and natural resources offered limited opportunities for modernization and industrial growth. Recognizing the need for diversification, the Malaysian government began implementing policies aimed at industrialization. The turning point came in the 1970s, when Malaysia introduced the New Economic Policy, NEP, which was designed to address both economic growth and socio-economic restructuring. The NEP aimed to eradicate poverty and reduce income inequality by promoting industrialization, expanding education, and encouraging greater participation of ethnic Malays, Bumi Puteras, in the economy. Malaysia's shift toward industrialization was largely shaped by its embrace of export-oriented industrialization, EOI. This approach focused on using foreign direct investment, FDI, to develop manufacturing industries, particularly in electronics and textiles. The establishment of free trade zones in Penang and other regions allowed foreign companies to set up manufacturing plants, benefiting from Malaysia's relatively low labor costs and strategic geographic location. Penang quickly became a hub for electronics manufacturing, with major multinational corporations like Intel and Motorola establishing operations there. The influx of foreign capital helped to transform Penang into what became known as the Silicon Island of the East. By the 1980s, Malaysia had shifted its economic base from agriculture and mining to manufacturing, with electronics becoming the leading export product. This strategy proved to be highly effective. Between 1970 and 1990, Malaysia's GDP grew at an average rate of about 6.7% annually. The country's export base diversified significantly, with manufactured goods such as semiconductors, electrical appliances, and machinery, replacing traditional commodities like rubber and tin as the primary drivers of economic growth. Malaysia's early economic rise can also be attributed to strong political leadership, which provided a clear vision for the country's development. During the 1980s, under Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, Malaysia embarked on an ambitious strategy to accelerate industrialization and modernize its economy. Mahathir's Vision 2020 was introduced in 1991, with the goal of transforming Malaysia into a fully developed nation by 2020. Unfortunately, it was these years of strong economic growth that had led Malaysia to fall into the middle-income trap. But to begin with, what is the middle-income trap? Well, this typically occurs when a nation transitions from a low-income to a middle-income economy, benefiting initially from cheap labor and capital investment. However, as wages rise and the country's competitive advantage in low-cost manufacturing diminishes, it struggles to innovate, increase productivity, and move into more advanced sectors. The result is slower growth, stagnating wages, and a failure to advance to a high-income economy. Malaysia, which was once one of the fastest-growing economies in Southeast Asia, now faces this dilemma. The core issue was Malaysia's inability to make the leap from being a manufacturing base for low-value goods to becoming a producer of high-value, knowledge-intensive products. In the decades following its initial industrialization, Malaysia had heavily relied on FDI to drive growth. While this influx of foreign capital helped establish a robust manufacturing sector, it also meant that domestic firms did not develop the same level of innovation and technological capabilities as seen in other successful economies like South Korea and Taiwan. These countries focused on building homegrown industries, investing in research and development (R&D), and fostering a culture of innovation. In contrast, Malaysia's economy remained heavily dependent on foreign multinationals, and its domestic firms struggled to innovate or move up the value chain. Fortunately, Malaysia has a plan. A big plan that can change all of these. What has recently crept up to become Malaysia's next big industry are semiconductors. Malaysia has recently been in the spotlight for being one of the best destinations for semiconductor investments. It is a sector vital for Malaysia's economy. Malaysia is responsible for about 13% of the world's semiconductor assembly and testing, with major global players such as Intel, AMD, and Infineon operating facilities there. But as we just said, these are low-value works, assembly and testing. It is also dominated by multinational corporations. To change this and move beyond its role in the lower segments of the semiconductor value chain, Malaysia introduced various initiatives. In 2024, Malaysia unveiled its National Semiconductor Strategy, NSS, aiming to position itself as a global semiconductor powerhouse. The NSS outlines a three-phase, $53 billion plan designed to strengthen Malaysia's position in the semiconductor value chain by investing in infrastructure, fostering R&D, and encouraging collaborations between local firms and international players. Malaysia is also targeting to double its market share of the global semiconductor trade by 2029. This ambitious plan is driven by government support and the rise of geopolitical tensions, particularly the US-China rivalry, which has encouraged companies to diversify their supply chains. Malaysia has emerged as a potential key player, especially given its established infrastructure in the semiconductor sector. This new technological push might finally enable Malaysia to become a global economic tiger. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.